Finding just the right person to hire at the right time inside your business is pretty tough, isn't it? Well, today on the podcast, I've got a special guest for you who's going to chat to us all about how to hire right. Hey, welcome to the Small Business Made Simple podcast, brought to you by socialmediaandmarketing.com.au. Being in business is never easy, but it can be simple, or at least simpler. Join me, your host Jen Donovan, every week where we focus on marketing, social media, and working towards simplifying your business. You with me? Let's do this.
Gonna dream it big, 'cause someone out there listening. Everyone's got a voice to give, and it's time I heard you whistling, 'cause there's no point at all, in dreaming small.
Hello there and welcome to episode 36 of the Small Business Made Simple podcast. Thank you so much for lending me your ears today. I know you have lots of choices out there and I sincerely appreciate you making me one of them. Today I have a special guest, a friend, a colleague, a client, a leadership coach, but mostly a fabulous human. Michael Peiniger of Kameleons Developing Leaders is joining me today. I've asked Michael to come on the podcast to chat to us about hiring the right people for our businesses. I know a lot of you out there are gearing up for the summer/Christmas/silly season, and maybe you need some more staff. Or maybe you're just in the season of your business where it's time to ask for some help or to hire some help. Even if you're not there yet, even if you're not looking for staff, this episode still has some fabulous insights and some conversational gold that is well worth listening to. But of course, before we get into that, let's do the discovery of the week. This week's discovery comes to you from my LinkedIn friend, Kate Wright. Shout out to Kate if you're listening to the podcast. She put this on her feed the other day and straight away I thought, woohoo, this week's discovery. Instead of Google, next time you search the World Wide Web, try Ecosia. And I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Ecosia, and enjoy private browsing whilst you're actually doing something good for the planet at the same time. You see, Ecosia uses 80% of their ad revenue to plant trees, so your daily browsing can make a huge difference to the world and make it a better place. And they don't sell your data, so that's like win-win. There's an app as well, and it might not make your life simpler, which of course is the goal of this podcast, but it is the little things that can make a difference if we all do them. So what do you think? Next time, do you think instead of using Google, you might go and download Ecosia and have a look around? As always, though, just a little disclaimer, my discoveries are just that. I am in no way affiliated with any of them, and I promise to tell you if I ever am. I just love them. I love the response that you guys, my listeners, give me, and I love that they, most of the time, make our lives a little bit easier. And if you have a little discovery, I would love to hear about it. You can send me an email, jen@jendonovan.com.au, or tag me on Instagram at Small Business Made Simple. But let's get into today's episode, how to hire right, of course, with leadership coach Michael Peiniger. I'm really excited to have my guest on today. Michael, as I mentioned earlier, is a leadership coach and facilitator based out of Melbourne. He is the CEO of Kameleons Developing Leaders and aims to build high-performing teams that deliver improved business results. Having spent many years in the Air Force, he definitely walks the walk and talks the talk when it comes to leadership. I've known Michael for a few years now, both as a friend and a client and a colleague. He sets the bar pretty high for himself and his clients, and I've always admired his practical approach to business and leadership. Some of the discussions today really made me sit back and think. Sometimes we just get set in our ways and we can't see the forest for the trees. It was a great chat, and again, I'm super excited to bring it to you. So let's get into it. Let's say hello to Michael. Thank you so much, Michael, for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate you coming on today and sharing all your wisdom around leadership, and today, I guess, around, employing the right person for the right job. Michael, for those who don't know you and don't know about Kameleons and developing leaders, can you tell us a little bit about yourself today?
Thanks, Jen, and thanks for the opportunity to be on the podcast with you this morning. Kameleons Developing Leaders is all about just that. It's about developing leaders and leadership. It's around working with small business owners and leaders of small to medium-sized teams to get the best out of themselves, to get the best out of their teams, to get the best out of their business and develop their business to that next level, and to develop and build their culture so it's the way in which they want their business to be and perform at the level that they've really wanted it to perform at. So is to get the best out of themselves and the people around them.
Beautiful. And I think that's such a good segue into exactly why I've got you on the podcast today, is to really talk about that culture. And, we're heading into, at the moment, the time of this recording, it is early to mid-August. And I know that a lot of my listeners out there who are retailers are thinking about starting to start the process of who are they going to employ coming on to Christmas, which is, make hay while the sun shines type time in retail. And I know that they're thinking about, so who am I going to hire and how do I go about doing that? So talking about the culture and learning what you need to looking into your business, I guess, and learning what it is that you need that person to fulfill is exactly why I brought you on today. So can you talk to us a little bit about what we should be looking for when we're looking to employ either that person just seasonally or the next best person to take our business to the next level?
Thanks, Jen. I guess probably the place to start is to look a little bit further than just the immediate need that someone has for staff right now. Because often when we're looking for someone or we're thinking to that Christmas period, we're thinking about how busy it's going to be and that we just need to have bodies on deck to do what needs to be done, whether that's deal with customers face-to-face or deal with additional transactions. And we can get as stuck in the day-to-day looking for the person as we get stuck day-to-day when we're busy. The first suggestion that I would say to small business owners and managers is to look just a little bit ahead of the immediate need that they're expecting, which is not just looking at that day-to-day. I know we're going to ramp up and we're going to have more transactions to do, but actually look, what is the type of person that I'm looking for and how do I want them to actually behave in my business? And that might be a clear understanding of what it is as a business owner or leader you're trying to achieve. And a simple question I ask leaders is, what are your top 3 values that are important to you? So often I'll see on someone's website and they'll go, I'm all about integrity and leadership, or we're ethical. That's great. That sounds wonderful on a website and it's clear, but often it doesn't mean a great deal. As the leader of business, what are the 3 values that are important to you? And if you're not sure what I'm talking about, values or look up, if you were to look up top 100 business values on Google, it will come up with a whole bunch of values from ethics and fun and integrity and honesty and purpose and hard work. Download a simple list of 100 values. And of that list, click off or tick and cross the ones that are important to you. Trying to narrow that big list. And and Jen, I've got a list of 100 odd type values that I can share with the people listening to this to go, here's the list, get to the top 10 and then get to the top 3. So what's actually really, really important for you as a leader? Now, use that when I first had a look at a list of 100, it wasn't there. It was a combination of a couple of different things. But one of my values is around being dependable. I'm not looking for someone to be an amazing leader. They don't have to be perfect. They can make mistakes. But I'm looking for someone that if they say they're going to be somewhere, they'll be there. If they say they're going to do something, they'll do it. Or if they can't or they won't, they'll tell me in advance. so that I've got something to work with. Now, it's not just that value that I'm talking about, it's all the little bits and pieces that, what are the things that people do that demonstrate that value, and what are the things they do that absolutely don't. So one thing that I struggle with immensely when I have people coming into my business is saying they'll do something, not doing it, and then me finding out about it after the due date. That's something that's really important to tell any potential staff member, that this is really important to me. So one of the things I suggest is, what are those top 3 values that are important to you? And this doesn't really matter what age employee you're working or looking to get. If you can be clear about, these 3 values are important to me, and this is how it looks and feels in my business, it gives potential staff essentially a left and right of arc. They know they can perform within this space, and they know what they can't do. And if you're looking for people to behave like you in your business, well, they have to know what's important to you, because it's important to us. And you also want them to be an individual. So recognizing what's important to you and what's not, you get a much greater opportunity of that staff member doing or behaving how you would behave when you're not there. Yeah, so I'd say, as a business owner, being clear on what the important values are for you, right? And not just the value, but why it's important and what it looks like. Most people would say, I want someone to be reliable. I want someone to be honest.
Yeah.
I need someone to be honest. But what is...
It's a minimum requirement. Let's just put that out there, guys. Right. No one is going to employ someone who isn't honest. So, if you've got honesty on your resume, take it off, because it's the bare minimum requirement required.
That's right. I'm looking for someone who's going to steal immensely from my business and talk bad about my business behind my back. Please carry on.
So, look, if we take dependable, I think, that's a perfect example, because I think when certainly whether you're service-based or retail-based, whoever you employ, you want to be able to depend on them. You want them to be dependable. But how do you find that out in the process of hiring someone? What sort of questions do you ask, or what sort of behaviours are you looking at to be able to find out whether someone is actually going to tick off that value as being dependable?
Well, one thing you could do, Jen, is ask someone the other way, what's really important to them? So when it comes to it, I could say as a business owner what my values are and why they're important. What's really important to you? When it comes to work that you've done before, what have you enjoyed? What have you not enjoyed? What's the type of workplace that's going to get the best out of you? And again, it comes down to some basic human interaction stuff, as opposed to a job statement or a duty statement. Yeah. It could be things like, okay, so you're running late. When you've worked in previous organisations, what have you done? Right? Because we can all be late at some point. Now, you're going to be wanting, I'm looking for someone that if they're running late, that they'll give me a call or send me a text and give me an ETA. And I want them to make sure that they're going to put something in place to not do it next time. That might seem really basic, but if someone can't come up with that idea off the top of their head, they're probably not the type of proactive, I can solve my own problems I'm looking for in my business. It could also be, if I'm looking for communication, I'm looking for you to get in touch with me at the start or a finish of a day. Or if you're struggling with making a decision at work and I'm not there, what process would you follow to get to the answer? Well, in my business, I want someone to try and text me first, because that's the easiest method of trying to get hold of me. If they can't do that, call me. And if they can't do that, make the decision and I'll go with it. So I'm not wanting someone who's just going to sit there stupidly, or I'm not wanting someone who's going to make a decision well outside the scope of what they can or what they should. So I've been looking at some of those simple behaviour things. And if people are looking at hiring someone else, what are some of those routine things that you just do day to day that you probably don't even think about? And I often get people just to write down on a piece of paper or a diary, what are the daily things that are going to happen? So if you're preparing a new staff member to take phone calls and you're giving them the special script of how to answer the phone. Well, if they're dealing with customers face-to-face 80% of the time, maybe you need to focus attention on the behaviour that they're going to do more often than not. And how is it you want that to be? I think another thing that people often forget or often miss is what's the type of behaviour that you're actually going to praise and that you're going to be really happy with, and what's the behaviour that is really going to annoy you as their boss, and write that down. I did some work probably about 2 or 3 years ago now, Jen, around this time of the year with some leaders from Glue Store, which is a Melbourne, I think, Australian-based fashion business. Sadly, I'm well outside of their target demographic, but working with the store managers, and they said exactly the same thing. Look, we have Christmas casuals. We've always struggled around getting performance. They don't do what we want to do. And so I said, right, let's come up with a simple list. I was working with 10 store managers, literally butcher's paper up on the wall. What's the behaviour that you love those Christmas staff to do? And got them to write it all down. And what's the stuff that they do that annoys the hell out of you? And they came up with a good list, essentially a naughty and a nice list for their Christmas list. Here's the nice list. You know, we want people to engage with customers, to be happy and friendly. We want them to fold the T-shirts that get moved or shifted without us having to ask you. If there's a box that's in the way of things, we want you to move it. We want you to put it away. If you haven't got anything to do, come and ask the store manager what you can do next. These are the good behaviours. And then they went, what are the behaviours that we don't like? People staring at their phones, not engaging with the customer, hiding in the background. If they don't know something, making it up. If they're walking past something that can be fixed that they could have done for themselves, and literally came up with a very simple list like this. And then when they went to engage those Christmas casuals, brought out the naughty and nice list. I don't know if it's directly attributable to the work that they did with that list, or whether it just happened to be a bumper year that year. But when we caught up again in February the following year, their stores had a 23% increase in turnover and sales.
Wow, that's amazing.
And those staff members said it was the easiest Christmas that they'd had in years. Why? Because the casuals were doing things that they wanted.
Yeah.
And I was looking back going, well, of course they did, because you told them what you wanted.
Yes.
And you broke it down into really simple, easy behaviours.
Yeah.
I think that is so easy to miss.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And sometimes it is just giving them little bite-sized things to remember and to do. Like I know when I had my retail store, and this might make me sound like a really big perfectionist, but I promise you I'm not as big a perfectionist as this will sound. But I wanted them to answer the phone a particular way because I wanted it to be the last thing the customer heard on the other end of the phone was their name. So that was easily repeated back. If you answer the phone and say, hello, it's Jenny speaking, how can I help you? The last word they hear is you. And Jenny was 5 words ago. They mightn't remember my name. But if you pick up the phone and say, welcome to the Kitchenware Queens, this is Jen, then they remember Jen. So I was having trouble implementing that. So I got a sticky note and stuck it on the phone. And it said, welcome to Kitchenware Queens. This is ? So they read the script every time they picked up the phone. So it was, I wanted the behavior to change, but I had to, make it happen. So I had to give them that little bit more instruction than what I was, rather than getting frustrated as a business owner, I guess.
Spot on. And it's a lot of those little things, Jen, that because people do it day to day, in and out, 100 times a day, it's easy to forget that this is something that is different business by business. People that are casuals might have worked in 5 or 10 different businesses that expect you to do it 5 or 10 different ways. And if you don't tell them the way in which they should do it in your business, they'll probably just revert to how they were taught last time.
Yeah.
Because of course they will. Whether it's answering the phone, whether it's greeting a customer, whether it's taking customers' details and inputting it into a database, whether it's even just that first greet of a customer in the store, is
Yeah.
different store by store. There is a certain way each business likes to do it. And it's so easy when we do it every day to assume that's how everybody else does it.
Love common sense.
It's
Doesn't
not
do an
common.
employee's head in at all when it comes to common sense, or an employer's head in, I should say. Yeah. Actually, one of my favorite sayings about, hiring and that sort of thing actually comes from Tom O'Toole. I'm not sure whether you know Tom O'Toole. He owns the Beechworth Bakery franchise, but he is a fantastic speaker and, does all that. And he actually says, one of the things he says is hire for attitude, train for skill. If they have the right attitude, you can train them to do whatever you want. But if they come in with a stinky attitude, that's just done. And that really comes back to what you were saying before or at the beginning about the values. If you can align the values, then, you can train them for the skills by having little sticky notes on phones telling them exactly what you want them to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Jen. Because we are humans and we get that feel of someone very quickly. And we want the feel of whoever that person is to match how we are. So if you're normally warm and bubbly and friendly or helpful, you're going to want the other members of your staff that you're taking on to at least be similar to that. If they're cold and distant and aloof, it's going to be incredibly grating to your customer. Not only because they're less likely to sell stuff, but they're not staying on your brand. And
yes,
the
there's that word.
Stuff, yeah.
I love it, brand, because people think of brand as just being logos and colors and things like that. But that is such a great point to bring up. Thank you. This is still your brand. Your employees are part of your brand, and their attitude and how they treat your customers or your clients is within that brand parameters.
Absolutely. And it is a reflection on you. It's not them. It's your business. It's your small business often. And how they behave is a reflection on you. So you don't know what your own skill set and behaviours are that make you uniquely you or your business uniquely you. It is worth taking the time investigating and having a look. Whether that is, we've mentioned over the phone, we've mentioned face-to-face. It could be when you deal with a problem. I've mentioned briefly before, I work with a number of different businesses, but how available frontline staff are to make decisions is dramatically different business by business. Are you allowed a customer return? So you're returning a piece of equipment. Do we give them a refund? Is it a store credit? Do we help them up to what amount are they allowed to decide for themselves before they come and get you? You would just deal with it automatically because it's your business and you know what the limitations are. Someone new has no idea.
Yeah. So those expectations are, extremely important.
Yeah, and we could break this further to when it comes to personal calls, yes or no. When it comes to the type of language you share with the customer, what's comfortable and what's not, what's inappropriate. In front of a customer, do you want the person to agree with you all the time, or are they allowed to disagree with you in front of others? What are the conversations that are front of office and are okay? What are the things you'd prefer to be back of office and not mentioned in front of people? And simple day-to-day questions and answers that you might not have a response for. So, and I've put together a little list here, Jen, that I'll send forward to you that you can share with people just around a team expectations checklist to go, right, what do I like and what do I not like? Because most leaders of businesses, in my experience, are so busy doing the day-to-day, they never actually think that their day-to-day is unique to them. And somebody else will need to learn it to behave in that way.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So
do
two things I'd say to really focus on.
So do you think that what's the best way to convey all this? Because this is a lot of information to convey to someone, whether you're hiring them just as a Christmas casual or hiring them into your business as someone who's going to be an integral part for a long period of time. Is this an onboarding series, like, an onboarding sort of thing that you would set these expectations, or is this at interview level, or is it pre-interview level? Is there any sort of surveys and questionnaires that they can take even before they get to the interview? You have a bit of an idea of who they are, what they stand for.
Absolutely. I think if you're hiring someone for short term, Jen, we probably don't want to invest a huge amount of time and effort doing detailed personality tests, but you could come up with something as simple as a one page. Here is my likes and dislikes. Here's what I love. Here's what I don't like. And then in the interview process, getting a gauge on whether you think someone can work with that or not, and sharing it with them. This is how I work here. It gives, not only does it give you a clear indication for the person whether they're a fit, but it gives them a clearer picture of you and whether they'll fit in with you. So I think as a short term, and that's a 20-minute think on your own that you could do while you're at work, and when either you have a customer or another one of your staff member do something you love, write that down. They might do it every day, but you know you like it. Or if there's something that happens that you don't like, write that down. So that's, I think, the simple level preparation for a short notice employee. For someone that you're looking to employ longer term, I think having an alignment of values, again, is very important. But you can go online and fill out any number of simple personality tests for free to find out what do you like to start with, what are your strengths and weaknesses, and then what are the person that you're seeking to hire. And if someone's looking for a longer term gig, taking 20 minutes online to fill out a questionnaire that you get the results of is worth your effort and worth theirs. Again, I've got a simple online checkpoint, which focuses on leadership behaviours, but it gives you an idea on, is the person a good time manager? Are they responsible? Do they have empathy for other people? Are they good at speaking? Are they good at listening? We know what they're pretty crucial things that you want to have in your business. And again, that questionnaire is free. It's on my website. People can fill that out. What I'd suggest is whoever's hiring someone, do it for yourself first. Work out what you're good at. And then are you seeking to hire someone to be a clone of you, to do the things that you're also good at? Or are you hiring someone to fill in some of your gaps that you're not good at?
Yeah.
So as an example, I don't have a very high attention to detail. The dotting the I's, crossing the T's, making it 100% perfect, it's not my strength. I'm wanting someone that is better than me at dotting the I's and crossing the T's. I don't want someone that, if I'm handing it to them, will also miss what I've missed. So when I look for someone, I'm looking for someone that's better than that than me, and using that skill set. I have quite strong verbal communication, and I'm also quite good at empathizing with a customer, but I can easily miss over steps when I'm listening to someone because I want to get to the next thing. I get excited, I want to get to the next point. When I'm selling or working with a customer, sometimes that's to my detriment. So I go looking for someone that is also a really strong listener. So I guess it's that decision of, am I looking to someone who's going to bolster what I've already got? Or am I looking to someone who's got gaps that I'm not good at? And if you can do both, fantastic.
What's your thoughts just before we finish up on what's been a fantastic conversation? But what are your thoughts on trust your gut? Because that's my thing. I have this little tiny saying, no matter whether I'm employing someone or anything in my life, whether it be personal or business related, my attitude is, if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no. And that's my gut. So if I don't get a hell yes on whatever the decision is, it's definitely a hell no. So what do you have, do you follow your gut? Do you have an advice on people who follow their gut?
Absolutely. I think in perfect world, following your gut is the way that I would go. You want a natural fit. And in my experience, those people that you have a good gut feel for are ones that are also very much aligned with your values. If you think to the friends you have or the people you've worked best with in business, they're often the people that you align with and have very similar values with. The ones that you know are not going to work cut right across your value set. That's been my experience anyway. So I'd normally go with that, yes.
There's a but coming, isn't there? I can hear the but in your voice. But, Jenny.
Call it but, call it and, call it then, whatever. Yes, absolutely.
However, notwithstanding.
Notwithstanding. Going with your gut is a perfect world. If you've got 10 people that are applying for a role and you can go with your gut and you're going to choose the best one, that's wonderful. Go with that. If, however, you've got 2 people for a role and you're having to go best fit and neither of them are perfect, but you're looking at what's the best that I can have right now with this person, gut gives you an indicator, but I think some form of questionnaire or some form of profile can point you in the direction. Now, I work, as I said, with a business called Developing Leaders, so I don't often get to work with someone who's perfect or is an absolute best fit. I'll be working with the best fit right now. And I find with a profile, you can go, I've got someone who's responsible and I've got someone who will manage their time, but they might rush into things or their detail might not be great. I'd rather know some of that detail around where their strengths. So gut's good, but gut often isn't very specific. I think a profile or a tool can get a little bit more specific, and then you can go with gut and also have some rational decisions behind it and go, okay, I know this person's going to be great with people, but they might not be great with the detail. Okay, I can walk in and know that, and I can plan around that. Or this person's going to have no empathy. You know what? That's not going to work in my business, so no.
Yeah.
So I think if you've the longer term person, I'd rather have both, Jen. I'd rather have the gut feel and a bit of data that also backs up my gut feel. And then I know what I'm going to work with. If I only have one person apply for a role, I want to know that, okay, can I accept their weaknesses and what they have because they've got some great strengths? Or is it too big an effort to train or to skill up? Hire for attitude, train for skill. You can train for skill if you've got the time and you've got the effort to be able to do it. If it's going to be busy and hectic, you might not have that. So I like a bit of both. I'm going to hedge both bets and sit on the fence, Jen.
Yeah, good on you. Good on you, you little fence sitter. That's fine. That's fine. Beautiful. Michael, there has been some really great gold in here. And I think everyone who's listening will really appreciate your thoughts around, especially around getting values and that sort of thing. I think that business owners perhaps want to put more effort and energy into discovering what their values are, and perhaps they know what they are, but they haven't formalized them. So I think it's a really great process if you can formalize those values and understand why they are valuable to you. It's all very great to say, one of my values is integrity, but why is it integrity? And quite often I would find in my life that the values have come from experiences, because I've experienced someone not being integral and I didn't like it. So now I want someone, with integrity. So that's how I would kind of, look at values and that sort of thing as well. But just to wind up, do you have any other pieces of gold that my audience should know or should be thinking about when it comes to hiring either their Christmas casual or their next best thing in their business?
I'd say a simple piece of gold, Jen, would just be to take 10 or 15 minutes yourself and think of what's the ideal employee look like. So I know in a business sense, I know you've done podcasts before around your client avatar and working out what's your ideal client. I'd say, what's your ideal staff member? Not so much around, what do they look like? What's their age, but more, what's the behaviors that you really want them to do? What is it that they could bring that would add to your business? What's the ideal staff member, and what's the one that would give you nightmares at night? If they did this and this. Yeah. And as you said, we've all learned from experience around the things that we don't like and things that we don't want to have. That's important to tell a potential employee, but also what's the stuff that we do like? And I think that thinking of it as that ideal staff member, like we think of as our ideal client avatar, and to be able to speak to that and share that with potentials. It often doesn't take very long, but it is worth its weight in gold for when you're looking at that gut feel, as you've said. Do they fit this or do they not fit this? And it makes the decision that much simpler. So I guess for me, the simple bit of gold, a little bit of preparation before you're seeing someone face to face and knowing what you'll accept from behaviors as opposed to demographics like age, look, feel. In my experience, it doesn't matter how old someone is, what background they've got, what race they've come from. If they demonstrate the right behaviors that are similar to what you do as a business owner, you can't often go wrong.
Yeah, wow. That's a big point to end on. Thank you, Michael. That's a very fitting end to a fantastic podcast interview. So, look, everybody, I will link to all the little pieces of gold that Michael has shared with us in the podcast, any links and that sort of thing. And I will get that list of 100 values and share that or link to that in the show notes as well. So, so if you're running or in the bath or traveling, don't worry, I will have those things in the show notes for you. But again, Michael, thank you so much for coming on today and giving us your time. Really appreciate it.
No problem at all, Jen. Thanks for the time.
No worries. Thanks. So did you enjoy that? I sure hope you did. It brings me so much joy to bring guests on like Michael and all my past and all my future guests that I can provide such fabulous free value through this podcast. It seriously makes my heart sing. And if you've got questions, do you know what? Michael is really active in my Facebook group, Like-Minded Business Owners. So if you've got questions, head over there and tag Michael in there, and I'm sure he will answer you in absolutely no time at all. If you haven't joined Like-Minded Business Owners yet, the link, of course, is in the show notes, or just go to Facebook and search Like-Minded Business Owners. Of course, everybody is welcome, and it's another great way of staying on top of what's going on in the world of social media and marketing. Of course, I will be back next Thursday with more marketing know-how and another great discovery. If you're enjoying this podcast or if you enjoyed Michael's interview, please go over and leave a rating and a review. Those things are like gold for podcasters like me, and it helps other people discover the fantastic free value that you're enjoying through this podcast. But that, of course, is all for episode 36. I'd love to connect with you all on social, so let's get social on social. I'm on all the platforms, and so I'm sure you'll find me there. So let's do that. And of course, remember, my small business peeps, as my opening song says, there is no point in dreaming small.
Tell like I feel it, say it proud, be true, and let us see you for the star that you are.